are you happy with the direction of your life? I remember going to a doctor, and the look when she did the test on my nerve conductivity, it was a look of horror. I was in a death spiral, and I figured 2.5 years, if I couldn't fix this, I would just grab the kettlebell and strap it on and walk into the pool. And that gave me relief. And that's when it really kind of started from there. And I changed mindset and put the whole module together step by step. And I do have a background in system dynamics.
The principle behind the book and also the title, The Savage Chill. What is that philosophy?
The savage is doing the things that are uncomfortable intentionally. The chill is the no panicking and no whining. If you do the savage without the chill, it's just pure rage. And the chill without the savage is just laziness. And together it really creates like a unified system of a cold mind, a strong body, and like a clear mission. When you start pushing yourself, you're a lot more capable than you realize. You learn to function better with yourself, how to deal with the discomfort better in everyday life. Because eventually everyday life is going to throw a punch at you and you have to be able to handle it. And in today's world, we do rely on comfort so much.
Welcome to the PAT Podcast. I'm Georgios, and together with my guests, I'll give you science-based blueprints and expert-based systems to transform bad habits into your biggest strengths. My guest today is Cam Cordin, who famously gave himself 911 days to rebuild his life or die after a big crisis that we'll discuss. Together, we'll discuss how to rebuild your life after crisis without panic based on his system that transforms your health, your body, and your mind. This system is for people who face burnout or mental overload, fatigue, or everybody who feels stuck or they want to rebuild their routine and ultimately achieve their goals. Welcome, Cam. I'm very excited to speak to you.
Thanks, George. Where do you want to begin?
Yeah, so I know you've been training for 4 decades, right?
Yeah.
And you're also a professional coach. I want to talk about that. You are a black belt Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, right?
Yep.
Another area that is interesting in terms of discipline, it ties up to the journey, right? And you're also the author of the book Savage Chill, Die to Live, which I think is a very, very nice read. Where you tell your story of how at 44 you were burned out, you were under massive pain, and you decided to rebuild your life, right? So talk to me about that time in your life and what was going on.
Well, I think it really started like at 37. I
Okay.
was training and all of a sudden, the soreness, it was like a different type of soreness and it just didn't go away. And even at that time in my life, I was thinking like maybe I should stop the training. At 37, it was crossing my mind. And I said, no, not going to do it. And it also probably at that time as well, my second marriage was starting to fall apart. You could see the cracks. So I started training even more. And eventually the second marriage ended. And right away, like a slingshot relationship, I found 16 years younger, moved out of the country. And when like right as I was leaving to move, all of a sudden out of nowhere, I could feel my hands like just like totally numb, burning sensations. And I was really concerned. Like I couldn't feel the last couple fingers at all. And they just started to progressively get worse. So I was in Thailand at the time. And I was like, it's a real problem. It's getting worse and worse. And the actual climate made a big difference. We were in Thailand, then we went to Costa Rica. And in Costa Rica, like it was just terrible. And I kept training. It was so terrible. And I remember going to a doctor because I really thought at this point I accepted it. Something's really wrong. And the look when she did the test on my nerve conductivity, it was a look of horror. She was speaking Spanish. I didn't really speak Spanish at the time. But the look she gave me, I thought to myself, like, I'm screwed. I waited too long and I didn't stop anything. If anything, I really started like doing more exercises, like grip exercises, everything, which helped. because when you have the nerve damage, if you don't do anything, you're going to lose that function forever. But it still was getting progressively worse. I'd wake up in the middle of the night and I wouldn't even feel hands. They were just dead. So I found a doctor, a good doctor in Alabama, works with professional athletes. I started doing tests in Costa Rica, the imaging test, and I sent it to him. And he's like, okay, I know exactly what you need. Come. And when we went, it was right before COVID. And he basically said, we could do both elbows right now, or I can do one elbow and scope the elbow because I had like bone fragments the size of a grape in both elbows.
Okay.
And I said, no, I want the nerves first. I want to do both elbows. So I did the both elbows. And he's like, you should get a lot of the feeling back. I can't promise because you waited a long time. Because it was probably something that was building for maybe a decade
So it
or
was
less.
nerve damage,
Yeah.
but they didn't tell you what was the cause of it?
Well, the nerves were trapped. I don't know why it was happening. My father had like a degenerative nerve disease, and I watched him, lose it piece by piece. So I didn't know what the issue was. It might have been just from like I never stopped training. I'd get injured, I'd still train, I'd work through
Yeah.
it.
Overload,
And it
yeah.
was probably, in hindsight, it was probably dumb, but I don't have any regrets. Maybe it's my path. But the surgery went well. I went back to Costa Rica, but the nerve pain was still there. It wasn't as severe by any stretch, but the rest of my body was feeling. It's ironic. This happened, and a lot of it seemed to be personally tied to my life going on, problems in my life that other parts of my body started going. Because as soon as I hit the US coming back, I brought the new wife, and all of a sudden, like the pain in the rest of the body really started increasing dramatically. And there was like a stretch for like 2 weeks that when this happened, I wasn't training at all. So I was really concerned, like, what is going on? And I kind of ignored it. Then eventually I started training and it started really getting worse. And it got to the point I couldn't sleep. And like joints, I had no idea what was going on, where it's just terrible. My back felt horrible. And I tried doctors, arthritis doctor, and he gave me pills. They worked. They weren't magic pill, but it wasn't as bad. And then I went to a regular doctor. He did the blood work and my liver enzymes were through the roof. I went back to the arthritis doctor after, told him about the blood work. And they basically said, well, we'll start you on pain medication. It's only going to get worse. So I didn't like hearing that. And I basically dropped him, went to another doctor, and they started giving me cortisone shots in all in a bunch of joints. And it didn't work. And the cortisone was just, for me, it was terrible. I would get the shot. It would work for like a day. But the effects of it is I would go train and I would feel like I was having a heart attack from it. I was so out of breath from it. And I was just like, what is going on? So I stopped the cortisone and I just went down like a darker path. I started medical marijuana and I smoked it probably all day long. It didn't help. It didn't help with anything. If anything, it just made me like think about it, dwell on it more and more. Eventually, it was not a good selection with my ex-wife, but the pain factor involved in it made it even worse because I was always pretty in a miserable mood. I'd wake up, if I slept at all, I would wake up pretty grouchy, I guess is the word. I was pretty dark all the time. And that really kind of like made the relationship even worse. And in return, my body felt worse too. So I was in a death spiral. And so eventually we agreed on a divorce and I went out into the pool deck and I had a son living with me. He had like 2 years left. And I figured 2.5 years, he's in college, comfortable, that if I couldn't fix this, I would just grab the kettlebell and strap it on and walk into the pool. And that gave me relief, because there was actually one, I
Really?
had something to fight for because, 3 failed marriages, a body that felt like I was 70 plus years old. I was okay with an end result if I couldn't fix it. And that's when it really kind of started from there. And I changed mindset, everything else along the way and put together a lot of the lessons were from earlier in life, but I put the whole module together step by step. And I do have a background in system dynamics, so I'm pretty good with systems. And I started creating it step by step.
It's interesting how what was happening in your nervous system and in the personal life, they intertwine so much, right?
Yeah, it's funny is I was training in Costa Rica and there was a guy there. He was from Argentina and he was an acupuncturist, like a legitimate guy. He went to China to train. And I told him about it because I was in pain and I went to go see him and he started doing all the research and he's like, you have burning in your hands, everything. He was doing all the research. He's looking at the book, researching it. He's like, are you happy with the direction of your life? Now, obviously, I didn't answer it honestly because my ex-wife was in the room, but no, I wasn't happy with my life, and that stuck into my mind. The emotional state affects your body more than people want to believe.
But this death contract, right? So
Yeah.
you wanted to fix that chronic pain. You wrote these non-negotiable protocols, the principle behind the book and also the title, The Savage Chill. Would you like to explain it in your own words rather than me doing it? Like, what is that philosophy?
Well, I think the savage is doing the things that are uncomfortable intentionally. The chill is the no panicking and no whining.
Mhm.
And if you do the savage without the chill, it's just pure rage. And the chill without the savage is just laziness. And together, it really creates like a unified system of a cold mind, a strong body, and like a clear mission.
Got it. So it's the discomfort, right? That the discomfort that you put yourself through in order to grow. But it's interesting to talk about that discomfort that doesn't kill you, right? Not taking to the extreme, right? So
Right.
within the within the limits of pushing yourself. So over there, I do have to discuss some systems, and then the chill part that things take also that you need to be under control, that the mindset of no panicking, etc. This is where I understand your whole routine that has to do with cold exposure, that has to do with the right type of diet and environment take shape.
Yeah. It's basically like systematizing your life so you don't have so many decisions and you just operate. And I think that when you follow the system religiously, you kill off old identities. You start seeing identities that you probably didn't know you had appear even years later. And you have to say, like, I have to get rid of this guy too. And I think like the system really lets your mind focus on important stuff instead of always being in chaos. And I would like to go back to like the cold exposure. The cold exposure really resets your nervous system. I can give a lot of like whys to do it. You
Mhm.
could talk about like the inflammation relief. That's all good. The adrenaline, the norepinephrine release, all that good stuff. But I really think it really teaches you not to panic and to really push yourself. And people, if you look online, it gets. I'm not dismissing it, but like 2 minutes, 3 minutes. But like you should push yourself.
Mm.
When you start pushing yourself, you're a lot more capable than you realize. And when you're in there, you're like forced to be in a meditative state to last longer instead of like counting down the clock. Because if you just go through the motion, you don't really get the benefit. But if you sit in there, don't stare at the clock and just say, I'm going to do it for 10 minutes. Now, obviously, you shouldn't start at 10 minutes, but like really gradually build up to it. It has a profound effect that it really mellows you out. It has all the chemical components that are really great. But more than anything, it really teaches you not to panic. And I think that's the biggest one. And I can say another concept is I started doing the cold plunge for like a year, it was like maybe a year into it. I was doing it religiously and I did go for another elbow surgery to get the elbow scoped. Cause my elbow locked from the bone floating around and I was like, okay, I have to get it. It was, time. In the first surgery, after the anesthesia, I was nauseous. I was in pain. Like it was brutal. And then fast forward years later, after doing the cold exposure, the work and everything in the system is I did the surgery. I woke up, I was fresh. No fog from the anesthesia. I felt great. And I didn't need the pain pills. I didn't need anything. And it wasn't because I was like toughing it out with the pain at all. It was just not necessary. And I think that's the real, you learn to function better with yourself, how to deal with the discomfort better in everyday life. Because eventually, everyday life is going to throw a punch at you, and you have to be able to handle it. And in today's world, we do rely on comfort so much. I mean, you go to the doctor and they want to comfort you tremendously. And in the end, it does make you weaker. And you can see it overall. People live in comfort, but as men, especially, you see the effects for a lot of things because we don't do the discomfort. Now we have kids, even as young as 17, 18, that need Viagra. And it's because they've lived a comfortable life all the time. And eventually, life will make you uncomfortable. Why not just meet it head on so you know how to deal with it? I mean, doctors, some of them are great, but do you really want to live a life where you're always relying on a patch that deep down is making you weaker everywhere else?
I want to talk about some of these mistakes that you mentioned that people make. And comfort, you need definitely a safe environment. I
Yeah.
would say that's like comfort is a safe environment that protects you and supports you to grow. But yeah, comfort in general can be a killer of your growth. So being in the right type of environment is very important. The question is how to pick that smart discomfort. And I'll tell you what I mean by smart, right? Because a lot of people will seek discomfort to the extreme, and they will go directly to something that is not advisable to them, and they will try to kill themselves, right? Just to show that they're disciplined. I was speaking last episode. I was speaking to an extreme athlete. He did like uh, 10 ultra marathons in 10 days.
Huh?
It's like that type of extreme. And we're talking about mindset. And he was telling me that other CEOs or very high performers, right, try to prove themselves into that area as well, like doing Ironmans, like destroying their body and their mind just to show, right, that they are tough. And this is just such a wrong identity to try to follow. So creating an environment where it's okay to fail, right, but you're pushing yourself, I think is very important. This is for me what smart discomfort means.
Yeah.
You put it into the test with the cold plunge. It's a level of discomfort, but that's kind of the comfort discomfort balance, I would say, makes sense.
Yeah, I mean, even like you could take cold plunge, but you could even take the sauna.
Yeah.
Sauna is great. I'm a big fan too. Most people say 20 minutes, but
Mhm.
why not longer? Is because once you start hitting like 20 minutes, it does become uncomfortable. You want to get out, but the real benefits always lie when you push a little bit further and you adapt to it. And there's some real changes in your body that matter once you start doing the extended saunas as well. I know there's like a Finnish study that, and I think I heard Laird Hamilton talk about it, and he was doing an hour a day, twice a day in 170-degree sauna
Okay.
for 2 weeks. And the effect is your growth hormone levels increase 1,600%. I mean, that's phenomenal, especially if you're injured, everything else. But you have to also admit, like, it takes a mindset to build up to that. And most people aren't willing to do it, even though it's a tremendous benefit, especially if you're injured, to have that much of a boost. And if you look at overall what the sauna can do, it's pretty potent. I think these are like tools that you don't need doctors. This is your own body repairing. You start understanding yourself, not to panic, that you can do it and you build up to it. I think it's such a win-win philosophy, but like with the cold plunge or anything else or working out is everyone makes the mistake. And especially in the fitness world is you never go close to failure. That's trashing your nervous system versus training it. Because if you go in to a sauna, a cold plunge, and you go for an extreme amount of time, I don't recommend it. First time out it's going to be such a terrifying experience on your body because it's a new stimulus that you will hate it. You know what I mean? Like good luck doing it the second day after the first. And I think slow progression is always the way, but people judge like Like they go to the personal trainer and they judge the workout as good because they walk out of there barely able to walk and they feel like they're going to throw up and they think they're going to get better, but yet they don't really increase much. Now, I have a client in Nordic country. I started with him. He could do 15 push-ups maximum. And
Okay.
and I said, look, first thing in the morning, I want you to start with like 5 to 7. Just knock them out. That's it. And when you feel like you can add a couple, add a couple. So fast forward 2 months, he's knocking out 30 at a time without a struggle. That's a big improvement and it'll probably get bigger and bigger. But if you just start going at 15 every day, then try 16, your nervous system will fail you. It's just a matter of time you hit the wall, then you don't want to do it because you think like I have to do more and you can't. So I think that's really important. And if you look like historically, like the Soviet weightlifters back in their day of domination, they didn't miss weight. They didn't miss lifts in the gym. They never trained to failure. They always hit the reps, unless of course they're testing to see how much stronger they've gotten after a cycle. But like they were training their nervous system versus trashing it. And when you trash the nervous system, which I'm guilty of it most of my life, is you end up with injuries, you end up with burnout, you don't want to do it. And that probably you can transfer it to work in every aspect of life.
Can you give me more examples of trashing versus training to failure? Because now in the gym, it's very common, right? The
Yeah.
progressive overload by adding weight, adding reps, adding intensity. Intensity under stress is what matters, right?
Yeah. I mean, look, all these systems that work were developed back in the era of the Soviets, the periodization, is because they know that eventually you'll adapt to a stimulus and then eventually it won't work.
Mm,
So, they'd always do, the simplicity wise, 3 steps up, 1 down, or 4 steps up, 2 down. So you have a point. So you're kind of tricking your body never to hit the wall. Because if you just go 100 miles an hour, it trashes your central nervous system. You won't want to do it. And it's just the way it is. And I think that people want to do it because it feels like they're making progress and you feel tough, like I did this. But if you just kind of like just gradual improvements and pull back sometimes, it's much more effective. And it goes for anything in life. If you start a new job and the first day at the job, they just load you with stuff and you're overloaded, you will hate that job for the rest of your life because you started at such an extreme moment that you will burn out from it. But if they gradually put you in the loop, explain things, you'll transition smoothly. So I think that people like to do extreme because they think it's going to get you more results. And I'm not against extreme. I mean, I think I am extreme, but you have to do extreme properly to push the
yes,
limits properly. It's not just first day go, and
yes.
like think magic results will happen in a week or two.
Yes, and also science based, right? So you have a background that can also be beneficial. That's why I'm talking about always like science based systems, or in many cases, it is expert based systems, because in some areas, some extreme performers lead the way rather than science making. Right. The another area I want to talk about is building your environment
Uh-huh.
and creating an environment that makes failure hard. And you talk a lot about environment being the first domino that then sets you up for success. Can you tell me your thoughts on how to properly structure that environment and follow that routine over motivation and over feelings and moods that most people are
Well,
bound by?
yeah. And I think it's really important is when you make changes in your life, but if you walk into your house and it looks like a TV show, The Hoarders, the changes won't stick. I'm not a minimalist, but at the same time, the concept is items can be distractions. They become decisions. You walk past something, it's calling for you to do something about it. And that drains your willpower. And it's just one more thing. And especially in today's world, our phones are probably the biggest distraction there is. It's just shooting messages at you all the time. Same with the news. So it's clutter. It's mental clutter that probably doesn't deserve a place. And people like to hold on to stuff, like items as emotional attachments. They don't want
Yes.
to do it. And then it builds up. But I think overall is if you are trying to change your diet and you can't throw away the crap you've been eating, that's a problem, because it's only a matter of time. And let me even backtrack even more is because I talk about the systems is if you have that stuff in there, but not a system in it, you have clutter. It's chaos will eventually creep back in. You might be good for a week or two, but you'll wake up late one day or it's late and you want to prepare dinner and you're just like, you know what? The macaroni and cheese is what I need right now. It takes 15 minutes. It's just one day, but it's that clutter that is like it's harmful because most of you just need bare bones essentials. Otherwise, you become a slave to that clutter and it takes away from everything else you're achieving. That's kind of my opinion. And I think that if you want to change, you want your home to look like a hotel. It's
Yes.
very empty. You don't need a bunch of stuff. But I've yet to see someone that had tons of clutter like perform at a high level for a long time. It's just a matter of time. I've seen it all. Like their cars are disasters. Their houses are disasters. They have multiple storage units and it eventually wears on you. Even if you put it in the storage unit, you're still getting the bill from the storage unit. And people think like, I might need this stuff. I have a friend that owns storage units. And ironically, he says the average person like put stuff in storage for like a year to 18 months. I forget the exact statistics, but a majority of them just stop paying the bill and they leave it there and he has to clean it out. It's all garbage. They do glamorize it with the TV show, Storage Hunters or whatever, but he
Mhm.
said it's all garbage, but people are paying for it because they think it's important and it occupies your mind. And in today's world, there's so much coming at you that you really have to have a clear mind. In the environment, that's where it starts.
Exactly. You mentioned this hotel rule in your book. That was quite
Yeah.
interesting analogy of clearing the clutter, but also removing the decision fatigue, all right? Making less decisions, but making it easier to stick to your routine, right?
Yeah. Yeah. And the system is what really runs everything. When you design your system, if you have the clutter, it's just an obstacle in the system. And it's the first place to start. Like it's a no brainer. People feel immediate relief. They actually feel like, oh my God, I feel great. Because like same guy with the push-ups, he removed like 6 garbage bags full of stuff and immediately felt better just from that simple thing because he had a problem. He would wake up in the morning and just lay in bed, not wanting to get up. And it's of course because the clutter is there and you don't want to deal with it. And when you have lots of open tasks, it drains your willpower. And clutter is an open task in your mind.
Yes.
You want closure on every item.
Exactly, exactly. There is a physical clutter and there's also mental clutter that you have to remove, right?
Yeah.
Exactly. So to summarize, there's definitely going to be a reset. Lots of people have to reset their mind, right? We need a reset on the nerves that you mentioned that this can be done by exposure and also creating that environment that makes failure hard. Let's talk about the routine, right? Does your day start with the cold plunge or the day starts the night before with your right recovery?
The next day starts at night.
Hmm.
I fill like 2 1 liter bottles. I put them next to my bed and I drink them first thing in the morning before I even step foot out. And then from once yeah, and it's a lot. And
That's a good tip, actually. Now that I think about it, having the water there, not even having to get up, that's actually quite clever.
yeah, and I really encourage, I talk about it in the book. The more and more people I work with is water will fix most of your problems. Most people are severely dehydrated. They wake up in the morning and they go for caffeine first. And water really is like the key because if you're dehydrated and then you drink coffee, it's anxiety is already going to kind of set in. Then you're going to have the shallow breathing. But if you start with the water, it's a calming effect. And you already wake up dehydrated. So you should drink it. I can drink a lot of water. I've trained myself to drink a lot of water. but I would start with like a liter, like force it. You might even feel like, oh God, it's too much,
Yes.
but you really need it. And people say, well, I'll be using the bathroom all day. You're going to use the bathroom the same amount regardless. Because if you're dehydrated, it makes you want to use the bathroom as well. So you might as well be fully hydrated. And it's just the right frame of mind. So your system is working well. And it's the most important thing in your body alone is water. If you're missing that, everything else is it's just a ticking time bomb.
And is it also like filtered water? Do you have any preference in terms of like minerals?
Um, you know, I do the reverse osmosis water. Now I do also twice a day I mix it myself, but it's a combination of ascorbic acid, lysine, creatine, and magnesium twice a day. And then at night, I also take a sleep drink with a bunch of others. So I do take, oh, and potassium's in there as well. I do take a lot of magnesium, like more than probably as much as my body can physically handle. That's my own personal preference. And I do think it helps with your joints tremendously. So I would encourage it, but you want to find the edge where how much you could take because magnesium and vitamin C, if you take too much, it is going to clear your bowels pretty aggressively. So but if you can find the edge, what works for you, and it depends too, like ascorbic acid and magnesium, they both have calming effects. And if you're really stressed, you can probably handle much more ascorbic acid than someone that's not stressed. They're both great. They're both great for the body. Creatine is great for the mind as well, and body. And I just use these because I found them to be effective. But in my individual water, I don't. I just have a water system on the counter. I think it's Simpure is the brand, and I just fill up the water bottles and I carry canisters everywhere I go with water. And I make sure if I leave the house, I have a checklist. How many bottles of water do I need?
Okay.
Because I don't want to be dehydrated because it'll
Mhm.
affect your sleep. It'll affect so much. It's just not worth it. And if you dive deeper into it, is like Tom Brady. I know he has his workout routine, but like the main gist of his workout routine was at the TB12, I think it's called, is that he drinks 1 ounce per body weight. So, on a minimum, and he's a 220-pound guy. But if he's training really hard, it can be 2 to 3 times that. And if he's, having coffee, he adds more water because of the dehydration from it. So it sounds like that's it. Just drink water. It's one of those things that people they can't understand like how important water really is. And if they really measured how much water they were drinking in a day, they'd be disturbed because they're nowhere near if you just go from Tom's protocol of, 1 ounce per body weight. It's a pretty decent amount. Like everyone's drinking a gallon plus a day or roughly almost 4 liters. And it's better to be overhydrated than under. And now I'm sure people will say, well, if you drink too much, you could die. You got to drink a lot.
Yes, it's one of these foundational pillars that you need to establish. The same with your diet, right? But as I understand, it's first hydration, then it's your exposure, right?
Yeah, I switched up my routine. I now do my workouts later in the day just because I'm so busy in the morning. So my actual routine in the morning, and it's been like this for a long time, is I wake up, I drink the water, and I know the footsteps, everything. I brush my teeth, shave, I come back, I do push-ups, leg raises, then I stand in front of a red light and do some dynamic stretching for 15 minutes. Then I drink more water, then I have coffee, and that is my like morning routine, and I do that religiously every day just to get everything loose, blood flowing. And if you don't have a red light, that you can buy them. They're a nice tool to have. It wakes you up. I guess it's good for your skin. I will say if you have like scars or anything, they do help with scars. But it's relaxing. I enjoy it, and I do things in front of it. And like realistically, I do like mini workouts throughout the day. I never ever spend like an hour working out. It's always something, and and it works for me for what I need.
Okay. I also noticed that it's never this 1 hour or like intense exercise that would also require like a deeper recovery. Obviously, you need the intensity, but
Yep.
it's not this traditional 1 hour in the gym every day. You know, that many people have to commute, etc., because you have to combine the convenience of doing it as you know, the kit that you mentioned that you're doing them at home, right?
Yeah.
And then clearing up that capacity, that mental capacity that going somewhere doing that workout
Yeah.
required. Time management.
With time, I mean, like, I'm not knocking the gym, but I kind of am. Is look, most people can just, I would say, even like high level athletes, depending on the sport, but you could do it all at home. You don't need the actual gym. Kettlebells, they require very little space. And I'm a big proponent of it because it really, compared to a barbell, it does work a lot more stabilizers in your workout because it's really non-linear, moving it, and a machine is as linear as it comes. It probably the least beneficial, but like the kettlebell, you're doing all compound movements. It doesn't require space in your home, and you can find them used because eventually people give up on them because they try to do too much, and you really don't need to do as much as you think to look good. Pete, I know that there's lots of misconceptions, like if you want like that lean stomach, you don't have to do sit-ups. It's not going to do anything. You'll get more beneficial results in your abs from doing deadlifts than doing sit-ups. It's just the way it works. People want to believe it. 4-minute abs, it's not going to do anything for you except waste 4 minutes of your time. And I think the real beauty of my system is you do the cold plunge first. And if you do it for extended time, is besides like the hormones that it's going to, I even believe it increases your growth hormone as well, is that your hormones skyrocket, like the adrenaline, the norepinephrine, that when you get out, if you do it for a long time, it takes a while to warm up. The kettlebells came to me is because I was sick of waiting hours to warm up from like extended cold plunges. And I said, I'm just going to start with the kettlebells. I had them there and it just came to me. And I started doing swings, and it really started helping all my joints as well because it really, all the stabilizers are working. And there's no motivation. I don't need to get motivated versus if I had to go to the gym, I'd be like, I got to drive there. It's probably busy right now. And then you have to rack the weights, pick up the weights. We have to wait for the weights. So I think you do the cold plunge, you get out, you want to do it. Like there's not motivation. It's almost like I have to do this or I'm going to freeze my ass off for the next hour or so. And who wants that? So I think it's one of those things. And there's also studies doing cold plunge before intense exercise. It raises your testosterone.
So I was reading a couple of different research findings because many athletes do it after, right?
Yep.
For inflammation, for better recovery. In general, I think people have to experiment, as you mentioned, right? As long as they do it with safety. Where does that help in terms of the daily routine? But I like what you said in your book, where you're saying that the animal in you does the reps
Yeah.
rather than the motivated you does the reps. So this is quite important for me, like for us to kind of like use the instincts that we have, right, to our benefit. I thought that was a very interesting quote of what is the difference between the normal way and a way that is more natural and also decluttered.
Yeah, I'm going to be honest. I've been working out forever. I hate working out. Like if I had to do kettlebells before, like, and there was no cold plunge, I probably would get tired of it pretty quick. But I'm in the cold plunge. I'm feeling I'm getting cold. And I'm looking at those kettlebells like I'm ready to go. You warmed up even though you're freezing. You have the adrenaline going through and you just want to go through the workout as fast as possible because you want to generate heat. And so it's an intense workout, and it probably, I think, maybe lasts anywhere from 15 to 20 minutes and you're done. But if you're going to the gym, it's 15 minutes there, it's,
Warming up, yeah.
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 And I think that, and another thing is, look, you don't have to train like a professional athlete. I would not recommend people train like a professional athlete. Is that professional athletes, when their career is over, I mean, their body is wrecked, no matter what sport. So it's like, unless you're making money from it, why are you going to punish yourself for it? Like, why are you doing CrossFit? And CrossFit's probably, I hope you don't do CrossFit, but like,
Yeah.
um, it's probably the most destructive trend out there because those lifts they're doing like cleans. First of all, the clean is a very technical lift, and you have to, I mean, you really have to understand, like, it takes a long time to develop like flawless form. You have to have the shoulder flexibility and everything. And if you're doing that for how many reps you could do in a set amount of time, like that is so taxing on your nervous system. I mean, these exercises are designed for like no more than 8 reps, and 8 reps is on the higher side. It's designed for explosion, to train your nervous system, not to trash it.
Yes.
You don't need that. You won't be able to stick with it. You're going to get hurt. All these CrossFitters are always getting hurt is because your body is giving up. Your nervous system is giving up. It's not necessary. And you just have to accept that you can get great results from 15, 20-minute workout done properly with the diet. That's it. Like, you don't need anything else. You don't need, like, I'll even be even further is you don't need 10,000 steps. I actually think the 10,000 step thing is kind of interesting, like why people think it's a good thing. Like, I don't think it is. Like, I'm not against walking, but
No, mobility is important. I understand, but the exact absolute number is not 10,000. It's good to get people moving, and especially now that most of our working time might be sitting in an office, it's very important to move. But I agree with you. Instead of counting steps, it's better to count your heart rate variability, to check your nervous system recovery, check other parameters.
yeah, and like I would even say for someone is that like I walk just to walk. I don't count it as a workout. But I think when you do like a circuit, like how I have it is that it works everything you need and you can walk 10,000 steps, no problem. I mean, you could probably walk all day if you really have to. But I think that if you're starting, and especially because of all the parameters you need to track or people track, is do the workout simple, clean up your diet and see how you feel. And the ultimate test is the mirror. If you look better, it's working because it is confusing. I'm not against blood work or anything like that, but you should try to understand and feel your body, what it needs, instead of relying on devices. And the mirror is probably the biggest truth teller, not even the scale. And I think that like I wouldn't get hung up on the mirror either. I would say like start the workout, whatever you're doing. And if in 3 months you don't feel better and the mirror doesn't look better, you probably need to change the workout or diet. It's that simple. I think when you see results versus metrics, that's where people they get motivated to keep going or actually excited.
I agree with the simplicity that it doesn't need to be complicated, and complicated is some of a form of clutter.
Yeah.
The simple things can be effective. The middle aspect, I think, with the workout and any transformation, people are not patient enough. And transforming your body is not something that happens in between one day and the other day. Your mood can change dramatically. So I think the mood becomes, and as you said, the confidence, that feedback loop that you're mentioning
Yeah.
is what happens in the beginning and helps you stick. But for people who are out of shape, getting into shape without patience, it's challenging, right? And that's why they stop. Let's go to the diet. I know that you are carnivore based, right? And you mentioned also your supplementation. Talk to me a bit about your carnivore diet or what your diet consists of, and where do you find that balance, right? Because carnivore over the long term, for many people, might be unsustainable, right? So there is a bit of debate. I'm doing the Mediterranean. Talk to me about your principles.
Well, I think that the people that can't sustain the diet is probably have clutter in their life. That's why they're not able to sustain it. They have very little structure. And I think that is the reason why they fail with it. Because look, there's a million diets you could do. I always favored meat. I've tried lots of diets from when I was younger. Meat for me, always like when I was in my teens training, like if I was eating burgers and steak every night, I felt great, but if it was just pasta or something, like it was terrible. It didn't feel good. But for me, I just eat one meal a day. I've been doing that for a long time because it works for me. I like it. but I had ex-wives preparing food for me. So they would put like the standard stuff in there, salads and rice. And it was mostly eating one meal a day. I would gravitate towards the meat naturally to have more, not so much the rice. Your body feels it that you want the meat. If you're just doing once a day versus if you're having 6 small meals a day or 3. So I really was meat based. And then after the third divorce, out of simplicity, I started to have to cook for myself for the first time in a long time. I was just making burgers every night. I eat the same meal every night. And like after the divorce happened, like I was always in good shape, but I just started eating lots of burgers, protein, and I never really looked at myself in the mirror. And then someone took a photo of me and I was like, wow, I've gotten really lean. Like, 6 months later, a year, just from eating the meat. Nothing else really changed. And I enjoy meat. And that was when I met my current wife now that she really pushed me over the edge. And, because we went out to a steakhouse and she only ate the steak. And I said, what about digestion? Because I was eating a bowl of fruit and like thinking I needed the fiber. Oh, no, you just need a little butter, more fat, and your digestion will be fine. And once I heard that, I was like, that's perfect. And I switched over to 100% like pretty fast. And I immediately felt better. I had more energy in the workouts. And for me, it's easy. I think for me, the carnivore is because it's simplicity. It's so easy to do that you just eat meat, and there's all different types of meat, liver, steak, burgers. I mainly eat beef. That's the only thing I eat, sometimes lamb. But it's so easy. And I hear people saying, like, well, when I travel, it's hard. How is it really hard? Because they always have burgers. You can say, I want burgers just without the bun. You know, it's pretty easy to do. I've traveled, gone through airports. I enjoy it. It's easy to prepare. It's cheaper because if you eat healthy, fish is expensive. I've never been a big fish fan, but it's not bad. But fish is expensive. Produce is expensive. Vegetables are expensive. And, cutting fruits and vegetables, it's a lot of work, and I'm all about like having more freedom.
On the other side, I eat a lot of fruits and a lot of a lot of fiber as well, but I understand where you're coming from. What about supplements? And I know you mentioned magnesium, right? How are you supplementing? Or basically, it's all about recovery, right? Because supplements are part of the recovery. Sleep is part of the recovery. Recovery now is not only about muscles, but it's also about the nervous system.
Yeah. So I do take a lot of magnesium, probably well above what you're supposed to, but my body can adapt to it. And I don't really as much anymore, but I would also use on joints that ache, DMSO with magnesium oil, because DMSO is a transfer agent. So you could really overload the joint with magnesium. And that really had a great effect, but it's something I did for a long time, but I just don't need it anymore. So I don't do it as much. But if something hurts, sure, I'll do it. But magnesium everyone seems to be under, they need more. That is for sure. And it does relax your central nervous system. Like I said, in the book, I have a sleep drink. It has magnesium glycinate, vitamin C, potassium citrate, glycine, taurine, and GABA and tryptophan. And it makes me sleep really well. And naturally, like I think sleep is important. It's really important. And I think also shooting back to the carnivore diet, you need less sleep. And I will shoot back to the one meal a day as well. When I started the one meal a day, like 17 years ago, I went to the doctors and my resting heart rate was like 44 because, you're not spending so much time digesting. Your digestion's over and your body is in like a hibernated state and it reserves energy and you do have more energy. It's hard. I'm not going to lie to do that, to make that change. I would probably recommend people do it slowly because it's mentally tough. It took me months to really not fight it, but it paid off. And now I don't even think about food. It's not an area I think about during the day. And I do have more energy. And that's also where the one meal a day, I realized you really need a lot of water because people get a lot of water from produce. It's carbohydrates. I mean, it kind of already says it in the hydrate part in the carbs, and especially if you're on a carnivore. You need a lot more water than you think.
To summarize now, because as we wrap up, uh, the Sabbath chill is about facing discomfort deliberately, as you mentioned, but also staying calm and systematic, right?
Yeah,
And the system that you mentioned is about that exposure that you need to do, physical exposure, mental exposure, the right type of environment, the right type of nutrition and recovery, right?
yeah.
And would you anything else that we've missed that you think should be included in the discussion?
Well, I think most important is when you design your own system, you have to be compatible with it. You have to be able to perform that system on your worst day. On your worst day, do you change things? You should have contingencies for everything, like basically a flow chart. If you have to go to work early, your workout's going to be this. I think ultimately is you should never miss a day. And the system should be easy enough for you to do on your absolute worst day with a contingency plan. There should never be guesswork. And once that goes into place, the momentum builds and the momentum takes over and it'll just become part of you. But it's really important not to overestimate because people really like to overestimate what they're capable of. And it's really important to be honest with yourself, what you're capable of, not what you could do for 2 weeks, then fade away, but just,
Yeah.
start smaller than you think.
Yes, and it's about transforming your life effectively, not just changing a short term, how you look or how you feel. It's about like a change that you can sustain for your whole life.
Yeah. And I would also add is not to make so many changes at once.
Mm.
And I would start with the clutter and water.
Mhm.
That's like the first change because otherwise you probably won't succeed. I mean, like that is probably the closest thing that I will say to tell people is if your life is in chaos, you won't be able to you won't be able to do your workout or make those changes. You won't be able to transform. And I think it's one of those hidden things that no one really talks about.
Yes. So as we wrap up, I'll mention your book also, The Sabbath Chill, A Die to Live, that I'll put also a link in the description, sabbathchillstyle.com, for people also that want to hear more about you, talk to you, on a one-to-one basis. Would you like to share how they can find you?
SavageChillStyle.com. And if you have questions about the book, I do answer them. The book is a great place to start. And you got to really plan on if you're going to make that change, but like the results take time. There are no 4-minute abs in the world. It takes time, months, sometimes longer. And all these things work and they work for me and you don't have to follow my system to a T. You don't have to do the carnivore if you don't want to. I mean, there's lots of ways to, skin a cat, but this is what works for me and continues to work for me. And I never miss a day. And it's not because like I'm stressed to do it. It's just such an easy system to follow. And the results really compound through time. Yeah, that's all I can say is designing the system is probably the hardest part.
Yes, exactly. So I think you shared some very good principles. I also summarized it in the post for the audience how they can push their limits and transform their lives without the extremes, without the clutter and mental overload, and build that consistency that they need by prioritizing this daily execution rather than motivation, rather than pure willpower, right? Excuses, panic, etc.
Yeah.
So it's been great, Cam, to speak with you, and thanks so much for sharing your thoughts and the journey.
Thank you, George.
And for our audience, thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next episode.